About 10 years ago, I played in a basketball league, and because of an unusual league requirement, I gained a completely different perspective of not just the referees, but the game. It's really all about viewing things from a different angle. Let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk. I'll show you three classic situations where not only do opposites attract, they must attract.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jollis.
Yep. Always loved the game of basketball. Played the game at a pretty high level as a kid, coached kids when I got older, even played in a handful of adult leagues. Strangely enough, it was that last league where I played in that made me, I think, a more complete player and a coach. I also became more empathetic to one other person in the game, and that was the referee. See, it turned out in this league that I was playing in, it was a requirement for every player on every roster to referee at least one game. Well, when it was my turn, I stepped on the court with a whistle, a swagger, a rather cocky attitude. After all, although I've never refereed a game, I thought, how hard could it be? Certainly not as hard as playing the game. Yep, I was pretty full of myself until about 30 seconds into the game when I practically was overwhelmed with the speed of the action and the amount of the contact everywhere. I found myself doing a lot of talking to the players on the court with very little whistle blowing. Ease up, I'd yell, or let him go, or that's all, he's got the ball. I was carrying on quite a conversation until I started hearing the coaches yelling back at me, "You missed that call," or "Are you going to blow the whistle or invite that guy over for lunch?" Yeah, I got worked over pretty well in the first half of that game by players and coaches alike. But I settled in the second half. I stopped talking, realized I couldn't make all the calls, tried to be consistent, and tried my hardest to make the obvious calls. But being forced to walk in the shoes of the referee, it sort of gave me a different approach to the game. And because it was coming from a completely different angle, it proved to be a profound experience that I think made me a better player and a coach. Now, I didn't tell you this story to improve your basketball skills. Just take a moment and think about this. How many people approach what they do from a different angle? Each one has the potential to make you better at what you do. Not sure why we don't do it more. Let me give you three classic examples that personally I'm intimately familiar with. Let's start with this one, the classic between sales and marketing. You know, how many of us were raised on one side and then taught to practically sneer at the other? I was taught as a salesperson that those in marketing didn't have a clue as to what we were up to in sales. And I've actually met many in marketing who were taught the complete opposite. But when you think about it, wouldn't each side find tremendous value understanding what the other was up to? I've taught programs where I encouraged both the sales force and the marketing team to attend. And I will tell you, I had to twist some arms. I actually made it free for the marketing team. See, those in sales learn valuable information in prospecting, and those in marketing learn the psychology behind why people needed their product. It's a win for both sides. Here's a second example, sales and service. And once again, we find a similar or familiar scenario. I was taught as a salesperson that the people in service didn't have a clue as to what we were up to in sales. I met many in service who were taught the complete opposite. But when you think about it, wouldn't each side find tremendous value understanding what the other was up to? It was no coincidence that the most successful Xerox sales reps I ever met were tight with those in service in their territories. Customers were more likely to open up with those servicing their equipment, and this allowed those in sales valuable information and the ability to work proactively with their clients. Those in service developed more empathy for their counterparts and learned valuable communication skills as well. Once again, a win for both sides. All right, last one. I told you these are fairly intimate for me. Training and curriculum development. All right. I was taught and observed as a trainer that those in curriculum development didn't have much respect for those in training or understood even what our trainer really did. And those in training didn't exactly have a healthy attitude for those in curriculum development, nor did they understand the value of having someone who never trained write training programs. It was no coincidence that the most successful corporate training outcomes I ever observed were a direct result of pressing the relationships between the two departments. Trainers provided help as delivery specialists, and curriculum developers provided help as subject matter experts. Yep, a win for both sides. It might be fun surrounding yourself with like minded people, but realistically, how much do you honestly think you can learn from these situations? Much like any relationship, it seems that not only do opposites attract, they must attract. Each has the potential to provide a different approach to the other. By doing so, we can learn a lot about how we might be perceived and how we might want to adjust our perception of what others do. Ultimately, it makes both sides better.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.